To joint, that doesn't mean that I made any of this up. The victim!
Ma'am, you've been drinking, smoking marijuana?
Shoulder width apart.
The story kicks off with Jennifer Hills, a writer looking for some peace and quiet to work on her next book. Wanting to escape the chaos of New York, she heads to a secluded spot in Louisiana and rents a cabin from an old man named Earl.
Jennifer Hills, we spoke last week.
Since the place is way off the beaten path, Earl even draws her a little map so she doesn't lose her way.
These arrows get you through.
After settling the rent, Jennifer hops in her car and hits the road. On her way, she stops at a gas station to fill up and double-check her cabin's location.
Excuse me. Well, I didn't mean to...
That's where she crosses paths with Johnny Miller, the station attendant. Johnny, clearly impressed by her looks, starts flirting right in front of his buddies, Andy Consky and Stanley Woods.
Yeah.
Fancy.
Jennifer, however, isn't amused and quickly makes her exit. Andy and Stanley tease Johnny about his failed attempt, while Johnny, feeling humiliated, decides he's not letting this slide. Jennifer finally reaches the cabin, nestled deep in the woods near a lake. She's thrilled. This isolation is exactly what she needed to focus on her writing.
Something just...
After working for a bit, she unwinds with a glass of wine by the lake. Later that night, while on a call with a friend, she hears some strange noises outside. Curious but cautious, she steps out to investigate. Not far from her cabin, she discovers an old tool shed but finds nothing out of the ordinary. Assuming the sounds were just rats scurrying around, she brushes it off and heads back inside.
You've got to be kidding.
The next morning, Jennifer is busy doing laundry in the sink, completely unaware that someone is secretly filming her from outside the window. Later, she decides to go for a jog and stumbles upon an abandoned house in the woods. Inside, she notices the same kind of tools she saw in the shed the night before. Something about it feels off, but she shrugs it off and returns to her cabin to continue writing. Once back, she tries to freshen up, only to find the tap water is murky and the toilet is clogged. Frustrated, she calls Earl to report the issues, but just as she finishes her call, her phone slips into the toilet.
I did that.
Talk about bad luck. Earl sends over a plumber named Matthew Duncan to fix the problem. Matthew, a socially awkward guy, quickly gets the job done and leaves.
Sorry, you saved me from having to bathe.
Meanwhile, Johnny, Andy, and Stanley are hanging out by the lake when Matthew joins them. Trying to impress them, he lies about Jennifer kissing him while he was fixing the plumbing. This gets Johnny even more riled up. Stanley, the creep with the camera, then reveals that he's been secretly recording Jennifer around the cabin.
Bullseye.
Enraged by her rejection and now feeling emboldened, Johnny convinces the group that they need to teach Jennifer a lesson. That night, Jennifer unknowingly inhales some drug substance, making her lightheaded. She starts feeling uneasy, sensing someone lurking outside. As she steps out to check, she finds a dead bird on her porch. Still unaware of the danger she's in, she moves the carcass aside and heads back inside, only to see that her laptop wallpaper has been changed to a photo of Johnny and his gang. Now, she knows something is seriously wrong. Before she can react, Johnny and his friends burst into the cabin.
Get out of here right now!
She tries to fight them off, but they overpower her. Just as things escalate, she manages to break free and dashes into the woods.
Oh, no.
Fortunately, she runs into Earl and the local sheriff, Storch, who happens to be out hunting. Desperate, she tells them what happened, hoping they'll help her. Storch instructs Earl to go home while he and Jennifer return to the cabin to check things out.
Miller, you up there?
Gun in hand, Storch orders Johnny and his gang to come out, but the place looks empty. As he searches inside, he finds alcohol and the drugs Jennifer unknowingly consumed earlier.
You here alone?
Instead of believing her, he accuses her of making everything up. Jennifer insists she's telling the truth, but before she can say more, Johnny and his crew suddenly reappear. To her shock, Storch doesn't arrest them.
As far as our code.
Is that right?
Instead, he sides with them. Turns out, he's been in on their plan all along. Jennifer is completely trapped. With nowhere to run, Jennifer is subjected to their brutal attack. Johnny forces Matthew to participate, while Stanley continues recording everything, laughing as if it's all just some sick joke.
Take a look, honey.
After they're done, they let her go, forcing her to stumble naked through the woods, with them following closely behind. As Jennifer reaches a bridge, she finds herself cornered. Storch, showing no mercy, takes aim, ready to finish her off.
It was fun while it lasted, Miss Hills.
But in a desperate move, Jennifer throws herself off the bridge, plunging into the river below. Storr then commands Johnny and his gang to track down Jennifer and make sure she's gone for good, ensuring she won't come back to haunt them.
Between here and there, we're gonna find her.
He also tells Stanley to destroy any evidence, including the tape with their crimes, and burn all of Jennifer's belongings. Days later, Matthew is seen by the river, searching desperately for Jennifer's body.
Bodies show up.
Guilt-ridden and tormented by what happened, he regrets everything. A month goes by, and Jennifer's family, growing anxious over her disappearance, reaches out to Earl for answers. With no clue about her whereabouts, Earl informs Storr, warning him that the family is planning to report her as missing.
Something other.
Yeah, so?
Meanwhile, Stanley panics when he realizes the videotape of Jennifer has gone missing. It's been stolen. Unbeknownst to him, he had actually destroyed an empty cassette, keeping the real one for himself.
It's gone! Someone stole it!
Left with no choice, he confesses this to Johnny and the others, enraging Johnny so much that he nearly beats him up. Andy steps in just in time to calm Johnny down, suggesting they focus on finding a way to fix their mess. Later that night, Johnny is alarmed when he finds a dead bird at his doorstep, reminding him of the time he did the same thing to Jennifer at her cabin.
Come on out, fucker.
As he heads inside, he hears rustling in the bushes. Curious, he checks it out but finds nothing, just a few rubber bands lying around, ones that belong to Matthew. Meanwhile, Storr returns home from work, only to find a VHS tape mysteriously sent to him. Panicked, he worries that his wife may have seen it. Luckily for him, she hasn't watched it yet, assuming it's empty. Breathing a sigh of relief, Storr then gathers Johnny and the others to discipline Stanley for his screw-up, making it clear that if anyone gets their hands on that tape,
Hold on a minute. This before I'm done shoving up your
they're
dirt.
doomed. As they discuss the bizarre events unfolding around them, they start to suspect Matthew is behind it all. Storr orders Johnny and the crew to confront him. At the same time, Storr invites Earl out for one of their usual hunting trips. But as soon as Earl takes a break, Storr turns on him, killing him to eliminate any potential witnesses, especially since Earl knew something was off about Jennifer's stay at the cabin. Back at Earl's place, Matthew stops by, only to be shocked when he hears Jennifer's voice. Terrified, he stumbles down the stairs and loses consciousness. When he comes to, he's in disbelief. Jennifer is alive, back for revenge. Even though she realizes Matthew was the least guilty and is full of remorse, she refuses to forgive him. Without hesitation, she grabs a rope and strangles him. Meanwhile, Andy and Stanley are in the woods, searching for Matthew. As Andy reaches the lake, he spots a figure in the distance, assuming it's him. But before he can react, Stanley jumps out, scaring him on purpose. Suddenly, they hear Matthew's voice coming from an abandoned house nearby. As Stanley steps closer to investigate, he unknowingly steps into a bear trap, set by Jennifer. Screaming in agony, he struggles to free himself. Andy rushes to help, but is blindsided when Jennifer knocks him out with a baseball bat. Andy later wakes up, tied up above a bathtub rapidly filling with water. Nearby, Stanley lies in excruciating pain, his leg broken and useless. Jennifer, making sure he gets a taste of his own medicine, records him on camera as payback. She doesn't stop there. She ties him to a tree, attaching fishing hooks to his eyelids, leaving him to suffer. Jennifer then turns her attention back to Andy, dunking his head into the water. But that's not enough. She pours lye into the tub, ensuring his face burns as she forces him under again. Andy's screams are drowned out as his skin blisters until he finally dies. At the same time, Stanley, bleeding profusely, becomes easy prey for crows that slowly pick him apart. Over at the gas station, Johnny continues his work as usual, but his routine is shattered when Jennifer suddenly appears and knocks him unconscious. He later wakes up in a filthy, abandoned room, tied up with a rusty metal gag in his mouth. Jennifer takes her time, torturing him, yanking his teeth out one by one until he dies a slow, agonizing death. 2 hours later, Storr, out on patrol, receives a call from Jennifer. She tells him she's with his daughter, Chastity. Panicked, he rushes home to check on his family. His wife assures him Chastity is fine, playing at the park with Jennifer. Without wasting a second, Storr speeds off to find them, only to come up empty. Frantically searching, he returns to his car, unaware that Jennifer is already waiting in the back seat. Before he realizes it, she knocks him out cold. When Storr comes to, he finds himself bound in an abandoned house in the woods, a gun pointed at him. Desperate, he pleads for mercy, claiming he regrets everything. But Jennifer doesn't buy it. She tortures him without hesitation, taking her time. Once satisfied, she ties the gun's trigger to Matthew's unconscious hand. When Matthew eventually wakes up, dazed and confused, he panics at the sight of Storr bleeding out in front of him. Storr, equally terrified, begs Matthew to stay still, but in his frantic state, Matthew shifts, accidentally firing the gun. The shot kills both of them. In the final scene, Jennifer steps outside the abandoned house, a smile on her face as she hears the gunfire echo through the woods. Thanks for watching. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more movie recaps. Until next time, take care.